My name is Andrew Jacob Brown, founder of Confound Productions and producer of 6 multi-award-winning feature films. Our most important project yet is called After, an apocalyptic faith drama 8-episode series now in post-production. But we still need a lot of help if we want a series with the gospel message to reach a wide audience. Will you help us grow this channel? Let's get into the Word. What's going on, everybody? This is Andrew Jacob Brown with Confound Productions. Welcome to the After Series channel, and we are going to get into the Word today, but let's talk about the rapture of the church. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to give you at least 10 reasons of why I believe that the Bible talks about and teaches a pre-trib rapture. So buckle up and get ready, because we're going to get into it. Here we go. All right, for my first one, we read that verse in 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verse 18, the one I said I'd come back to, which is comfort one another with these words. It tells us, after explaining that the rapture of the church is going to happen, how we're going to be caught up in the air with the Lord, that we are to comfort one another with these words. Now, why would he say that? And that's only one place. If you go to Matthew 24, he talks about, see that you be not troubled, for these things must happen, and then the end will come. But we'll get into that another time. But why should we be comforted? Well, because I've read the book of Revelation from front to back, and there's nothing comforting about it. The whole 7-year tribulation is going to be terrible. It's going to be a time on earth that has never been like before. It's going to be the worst time in history. It's explained in Matthew 24. So it's going to be a terrible time. There's going to be 100-pound hailstones pounding this planet. There's going to be famine and pestilences and earthquakes and wars, and the Antichrist is going to kill a bunch of Jews, and there's going to be locusts that are going to attack people, and there's going to be all sorts of crazy things. We have to survive the 7 seal judgments and the 7 bowl judgments and the 7 trumpet judgments. There's like all these things that are going to happen, and the Bible's clear on this, how it talks about, like in the book of Revelation, that people are going to die from a great wrath of the Lamb earthquake. There's going to be a lot of death. Why is this comforting? Well, it's comforting because we're not going to be there. We're going to be evacuated. We're going to be taken out. It's not a doom and gloom moment. It's a boom and zoom moment. Boom meaning you hear the trumpet and then you're out of here. We're getting taken out of here. We're going to be raptured out of here. Rapturo, harpazo in the Greek, caught up in the King James Bible. I went verse by verse through the Bible with my old church 1.5 times, probably 18 years. And then I went one time around verse by verse through the Bible in my own personal study. And what I can tell you is it's really hard for me to believe in any other views after doing that, because I believe it's in plain sight. And I believe after doing that, I can see that the Old Testament and the New Testament both support the pre-trib rapture view. And whereas the other views, I think I have to piece too many things together to make it work. Do you remember when I said in 1 Corinthians 10:1 that we are not to be ignorant of the Old Testament pictures? Well, the Old Testament pictures are also great examples of why I believe in a pre-trib rapture. So if you remember the story, God told Abraham that if he could find just 50, 40, 30, 10, all the way down to 1, if he could just find one righteous person, he wouldn't destroy Sodom and Gomorrah, and he couldn't do it. But he destroyed it, and he did not judge the righteous from the wicked. Who was righteous? Well, do you remember a guy named Lot? In the book of Peter, Peter describes Lot as righteous Lot. And God, his angels picked up Lot and took him out of the city. What a great picture of the rapture. He didn't leave, he was taken out. Just like we're going to be taken out. Okay, that's a stretch, you might say. All right, here's another great example. Enoch in the Bible. Do you remember Enoch? Who's Enoch? Well, if you go back to Genesis chapter 5 and 6, and we talk about the flood, there was a dude called Enoch before the flood. And what did he do? We know a little bit about him. He was a man who walked with God, he talked with God, pleased God, and therefore he was not, because God took him. He took him out and spared him from what? The flood. These are just pictures of the rapture. But the most important takeaway here is God will not judge the righteous with the wicked. He has not done that. He said he wouldn't do that, and I believe he won't do that again when the rapture happens, which is why the rapture, that's the purpose of the rapture, is so that he wouldn't judge the righteous from the wicked. He's to spare us from what's to come when God pours his wrath on a Christ-rejecting, sinful world. Will it be believers that still get killed and saved during the tribulation period? Yes, but you will lose your head, which is why you should get saved beforehand. 1 Thessalonians 5 verse 9, we are not appointed to wrath. Chapter 5 of Thessalonians is talking about the day of the Lord and how we're not going to be appointed to the wrath during that time. If you read the book of Revelation and you get to chapters 6 through 19, the divine outline of Revelation, which we're going to talk about in a minute, 6 through 19 is talking about the tribulation period. And during that time, you see the word wrath 13 times. But you do not see the word church anywhere during that time. The only time you ever see church is in the beginning, which is talking about the 7 churches of the book of Revelation. So we are not appointed to that wrath. God is going to rapture us out before he pours out his wrath on a Christ-rejecting, sinful world. The imminence of the Lord's return. In other words, believing that the rapture can happen at any moment. If you are a mid-trib person or a post-trib person, you can't live with that expectation that the Lord can come back at any moment. Why? Well, because there'd be too many things that would have to happen first before the rapture of the church. One of them being the Antichrist. The Antichrist would come first, which means we can live this sinful life and do whatever we wanted to, knowing that the Lord's not going to come back until we see the Antichrist. And then when we see the Antichrist, we're like, okay, cool, we'll just get right with God now. You can't live with that imminence. And plus, we would know exactly when the rapture was going to come when the tribulation starts, because the Bible gives us certain days. 1,280 days, being 3.5 years, a times and a half a time. Some just says 3.5 years. Different spots in the Bible, they give us exact time of the 7-year tribulation period. So if the tribulation starts with a peace treaty and the Antichrist arrives, we can just set our clock and be like, well, you know, the rapture is not going to happen until about midway through. And we don't know the day or the hour, which is what gives us that living with that hope of the Lord's return. Remember, 1 John 3, he who lives with this hope purifies himself. So, the imminence of the Lord's return, knowing that Jesus can come back at any moment. Escaping the tribulation period. Luke 21:36 says, pray that you are accounted worthy to escape these things. What things? The things that are going to happen during the tribulation period. The divine outline of the book of Revelation. Revelation chapter 1 verse 19 says, write the things which you have seen, the things that are now, and the things that are hereafter, that are coming after. The word is metatauta in the Greek. It's clearly meaning hereafter. So the Bible gives us a divine outline of the book of Revelation, which means you don't got to reorder it around. It's in perfect order. You don't have to touch it. So what does that look like? So in chapters 1, you see Jesus Christ in the flesh, the things he has seen. The things that are is Revelation chapter 2 and 3. That is the church age. That's the church age we also live in now. And then in Revelation chapter 4 and 5, we see the heavenly scene. In chapter 4, immediately that happens hereafter. In chapter 4, John is taken up. And immediately he's caught up into heaven. Does that look like a picture of the rapture to you? It does me. And then in Revelation chapter 6 through 19, we see the tribulation period. Chapter 19 is the second coming of Christ. And then in chapter 20, we see the millennial kingdom, 1,000-year reign. And then chapter 21 and 22, we see the new heaven and the new earth. And so there you have the perfect outline of the book of Revelation. You don't need to move anything. You don't need to reorder it. It's perfect the way it stands. And just remember the word wrath. The word wrath is written in chapter 6 through 19. And that's where you get the tribulation period 13 times. Remember the word wrath. The word church is not in there at all, but you see church in the beginning when it's talking about the 7 churches of Revelation. And the reason why the word church is not in Revelation 6 through 19 is because we are going to be raptured. Paul, Peter, John, the apostles, they all believed that the Lord was going to return in their time. They all live with that expectation, that imminence of the Lord's return. So the rapture of the church is not a new concept. It's just become more popularized in the 19th century. And they believe, the disciples, they believe that the Lord was going to return in their time. So because they believe that the Lord will return at any moment, so do I. Number 9, my favorite. Don't be like the wicked servant, The wise servant is watching, waiting, and being ready for the Lord's return. We don't have to do that if the rapture happens in the middle or the end of the tribulation period. Again, other things would have to happen first, and not waiting and watching and being ready makes us the wicked servant. A pre-trib rapture believer is a wise, faithful servant watching, waiting, and being ready. The church is holding back things. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 1 and 2 talks about two events. One is talking about the rapture of the church, and then the second coming. So it's described two events in the same sentence. Then it says, he who is withholding or holding back, he must be taken out of the way, and then the wicked one will be revealed. And I know this is a little cryptic, so I'm going to give it to you quickly because this is an entire study on this. But the he that is taken out of the way, most scholars believe that's talking about the church. The church is the he there that's taken out of the way. Then the wicked one will be revealed, the Antichrist, who's going to be destroyed by the brightness of his second coming, which would be a pre-trib rapture. And I know that's more of a cryptic one, and there's a whole study behind it, but there's more exacting prophecies that will back this one up that talk about the Lord's return, like Matthew 24, Revelation 19, Zechariah 14, and others. But there you go. That's why I believe in a pre-trib rapture, and those are only 10 that I tapped into today. The After series is going to portray the tribulation period, which is all these characters are left behind after the rapture of the church. The prequel to this is called Before It Happened, and before it happened, you get a glimpse of the rapture and things that happen there. I bring this up because the rapture of the church is not a major theme of the story after, the TV series after this 8-episode series. And the reason why I bring this up is because a lot of people might misinterpret what that after is about the rapture. It's not about the rapture. The rapture is just an event that happened, and even if it happened in the middle or later in the tribulation period, after is still a possibility. We're going to see people in the tribulation period. That's what I want you to get out of this. So I just want you to know that in case you're like, oh, this rapture of the church thing's a deal breaker. It shouldn't be. All the essential doctrines are there in after, and the tribulation period is there. Now, if you don't believe in a tribulation period, then that's a whole nother study. But the After series is not about the rapture, but it is an event that has happened, and they talk about it a little bit. They call it the vanishings. And so it is something that is mentioned in the series. So what is the point of this? The whole point of this, why are we talking about it? The whole point of this is not about the rapture of the church or the end times and all those things. Those are things that we should be watching and waiting for. But the whole point of this is Jesus Christ. We should be excited about Jesus Christ. It's the gospel message. That's what we want to get out into the world today. And the After series, that's what that's all about. It's about getting people saved and showing people that it's not too late for you. There are second chances. There's nothing you've done that you can't come back from. And so that's the whole point of this whole thing. Revelation 19, verse 10 says that the spirit of prophecy is Jesus Christ. So even in Revelation, it says the whole point of Revelation and prophecy is Jesus. Like, it's the point to Jesus. All right, thank you guys for tuning in on this prophecy teaching, talking about the rapture of the church. I know this is a heavy one, but just remember what I always say. This is not an essential doctrine of the Christian faith. It's okay if we disagree. It's no big deal. Just know that the rapture is something that's real, and it is in the Bible. And I hope that you got something out of this. If there is a video that you'd like me to make, or if there's a topic you want me to talk about as it relates to end times and eschatology or the After series, please sound off in the comments. Let me know. That was a lot. Thank you guys for following along. Until I see you guys all in the next video, God bless you.